Flat earthers often try and debunk the globe instead of actually proving that the Earth is flat. And they often do this by attacking not the globe, but NASA and space. Kyle Adams, here on YouTube as Abolish NASA, does exactly that.
Gas expands in a vacuum.
That's not the only place that gas expands in, if you know what I mean.
Pull my finger.
It doesn't just stay in one place. The greater the vacuum, the greater the expansion. And if you pop that balloon, that gas will immediately fill the entire vacuum.
And of course he's right here. If you take a balloon into a vacuum and then pop it, of course the gas is going to expand outwards from that balloon. The problem is he's now going to equate a balloon to a rocket.
So if gas were to come out of a rocket in outer space, we shouldn't be thinking of it staying together like some kind of a rainbow.
I don't know who thinks of rockets as staying together like a rainbow. Are you sure that you're debunking NASA and not reading Rainbow?
That gas should immediately disperse, leaving nothing to push off.
You can already see here that Kyle is misunderstanding or purposefully misinterpreting how rockets actually work.
And let's just think this through. If you have one particle that comes out of the back of a rocket at a given speed, something has to slow that particle down in order for the next particle to be able to kick itself off of it and get that propulsion necessary to be able to move the rocket.
That's not really how rockets work. They don't require particles to be slowed down by something to kick itself off of it. That's just not how rockets work in space.
Propulsion works as like a chain reaction where one particle pushes off another particle, which pushes off another particle until it ends up moving the rocket.
Except that's not at all how rockets work. A rocket doesn't push off of the particles around it in order to gain momentum. What it does is it has mass, and it throws mass out the back of the rocket really, really fast. According to Newton's third law of motion, when you push off of an object, that object pushes back on you with the same amount of force. Think of for a second if you were standing on a skateboard holding a bowling ball. If you were to throw that bowling ball out away from you as hard as you could, the bowling ball wouldn't just go forward, you would also move in the opposite direction. A rocket applies this in a much grander scale, where it's shooting off little teeny tiny particles with such immense force that the force that those particles then react back onto the rocket with will propel that rocket forward. It doesn't matter if there's other particles for those particles to react with. Once they have left the rocket, that force has already been imparted back onto the rocket in the first place.
I think my favorite rocket in a vacuum demonstration is this one by Action Lab.
I love when flat earthers bring up this particular Action Lab experiment because it actually cherry picks Action Lab's videos and ignores all of the other videos that they do inside of vacuum chambers.
This vacuum is puny compared to the intensity of the vacuum of space, as they claim. So you'll see a stream of gas come out of the syringe rocket here. It's not automatic dispersal here, but you'll notice that no movement takes place until the end of that gas stream hits the wall.
Except if you watch that video back really, really closely, the syringe starts moving immediately as the gas exits the syringe.
See? He moves right there!
The amount that it moves is tiny, yes, but it's there.
It is the wall that slows that gas down, allowing that chain reaction to take place, which then moves the rocket.
And here is the crux of the flat earth argument with this type of experiment where they've actually demonstrated a rocket working in a vacuum chamber. What Kyle is saying here is this syringe did not move forward until it had expelled enough gas out that gas was then pushing against the side of the container, and that the gas was somehow pushing from the container back onto the syringe itself and transferring energy in that way.
Amazing! This is just like magic!
But the problem here, once the gas hits the container, there's no mechanism for that gas to then push back up against the rocket here. This is the same reason why helicopters don't work while they're just next to the ground, because they don't need to push off of the ground, they just need to push the gas that is around the helicopter blades. The only real difference between a helicopter and a rocket is a rocket has to bring the gas with it that it will then expel out the back, whereas a helicopter can just spin the blades and use the gas that is around it. The helicopter doesn't need the ground to push off of in order to obtain flight, which is exactly what Kyle Adams is saying here is necessary for a rocket.
And people have to remember, there are no walls to push off of in the claimed outer space.
That's okay. In our example of the bowling ball and the person on the skateboard, there is no wall that this person on the skateboard is pushing off of. He's just pushing on the bowling ball itself. That bowling ball then transfers energy back onto the skateboarder. While Kyle Adams will applaud this video from Action Labs, he's going to totally ignore another video also from Action Labs, where they take a poppet and suspend it in the center of a vacuum. Then they use a laser to ignite that poppet. That poppet will shoot the string and the paper that it was attached to away, while the rest of the particles fly in another direction. This is another example of an explosion imparting a force on the paper or a rocket and pushing it a different direction than the explosion is traveling in.
We're at full vacuum once again. See if the laser can actually heat it up hot enough. 3, 2, 1. Just with some simple pop rocks, you could see that there's definitely can be fire in a vacuum, there can be explosions in a vacuum, which means of course there can be rockets in a vacuum.
I've shown that video to many flat earthers on TikTok lives, and they all will just move on and ignore the point. So here's my challenge to you, Kyle Adams. Address the poppet video. That's it for today's video. If you enjoy the flat earth debunking content or just science in general, or if you're into fantasy and books, give this video a like and drop a follow, and I'll see you in the next video. And remember, flat earth is fleeting, but the internet is forever.